out uh, but, okay, what this is all about.
Okay.
Yep. Now we're set up properly, and here we are, about ready to go live. Go. Are you ready?
Sure, I'm ready.
All right, here we go. Oh, let me move. It's probably a little closer. Hi, I'm Meta Spencer, and let's go to Africa. I haven't been to Africa actually ever in my life, to be honest, but even vicariously, I haven't been in a while. So today we're going to go to Cameroon, and we're going to talk to Dr. Makete Itoe. And he is I don't know exactly what his title is, but he's certainly working, doing development aid and aid to people in distress. I believe you've got some people having a lot of trouble, and Dr. Itoy, I was kind of surprised. We got a message saying something about we ought to be covering what's going on in Cameroon, and I thought, well, I don't know what is going on in Cameroon. And somebody tells me, well, they've got a famine going on. Really? And then somebody else tell me it's not just a famine, it's caused by a war. And I think, a war? I haven't heard of any of that. So I went to the internet and I found some things talking about some problems you guys have, and I'm not sure that's really the nature of the main thing going on. So you're going to have to do a lot of work to explain to me what your problems are. And ideally, if you can think of something that we can help with, that would be wonderful because we'd like to be useful in this world. So tell me, sir, you're doing relief or refugee work or something. Why don't you just start and assume that other people are as uninformed as regretfully I have to say that I am, and bring us up to speed about what is going on in Cameroon.
Thank you very much, Spencer Meta. I appreciate the time and opportunity given me
Mhm.
to express some opinion and the realities on the ground in terms of what is happening as far as humanitarian shortcomings and interventions are concerned in the ongoing armed conflict within the north, west, and southwest regions of Cameroon. As a background, I am Mokete Tale Itoy.
Mhm.
I am a practicing judge by profession.
You are what? A judge?
I'm a practicing judge,
A judge?
yes, by profession,
Oh.
and I hold a PhD in international law
Mhm.
from Celanius University in Italy,
Mhm. Okay.
and I am the country director of the Refugee Welfare Association, REWAC,
Okay. Thank you.
www.rewac.org,
Okay.
which is a humanitarian organization with the mandate to protect, defend, and enforce the rights of vulnerable migrants as enshrined in international law,
Mhm.
of which many of the conventions Cameroon is a signatory. So, with this background, I'm giving you live stories of things that are happening on the ground.
Mhm. First, let me ask you,
As
because
far
I'm
as
intrigued. Can you back up a little bit and tell me a little bit about your work as a judge? Where are you a judge, and what do you judge?
I am at the High Court of Mezam in a district of Bamenda. And as a high court judge, I entertain, hear, determine, or adjudicate cases ranging from commercial, criminal,
Mhm.
gender-based violence, torture, and all the kind of cases that you can imagine within the laws of the Republic.
Mhm.
The only difference is that with my international touch, with my exposure, and with my readings of international law and in international law, I have the duty and I do domesticate the application of international law in my judgments and decisions that I take.
Mhm. Mhm.
And
Okay.
above all, I am a member of the International Association of Migration and Refugee Judges, which is based in the Netherlands.
You know, I'm
So
very keen to know more about that, but we're here to talk about Cameroon. I just
yes,
want to call attention to, because you've mentioned this international connection with refugees, and I have in mind the plight of the men in Russia who have fled from the country to avoid being mobilized and sent to fight in Ukraine. And there are hundreds of thousands of them who are stuck and can't get visas to go or immigration papers to go to the countries that they'd like to join. So they're in a difficult situation. So I've been looking at trying to find people who are experts on migration. So I may get back to you another time to talk about the plight of people in that situation. But that's not what we're here to talk about. And I deflected you from your telling me about what's going on in Cameroon.
yes, thank you very much. I am available at any time. I consider myself as an expert in migration, refugee asylum
Wonderful.
issues,
Uh-huh.
and I'll be available. For now, I am not talking here as a government official who
Uh-huh.
is uh, who is a practicing judge. My exchange with you this evening is as in my capacity as the country director of of a humanitarian organization which works for the protection of the rights of marginalized and vulnerable migrants. So that is a perspective. You see me in the shoes of the person who runs this organization. So as far as the atrocities and the problems and the challenges are concerned, I just want to give a small background, or a brief background, if you like, that since the year 2016, 2017, there has been an armed conflict which has been going on in the southwest and northwest regions of Cameroon. Cameroon is made up of 10 regions. 8 of the regions are French speaking, and 2 of the regions are English speaking, and they are the minority. It is 80%, 20% ratio, just the reverse of Canada. In Canada, it is the English population which is in the majority, and the French speaking are in the minority. So just take Cameroon, this reverse of Canada, and you fit it into the context of our colonial past. The French part was being managed by the French, and the English-speaking part was being managed by the British.
Mm-hmm.
So the English minority, they have been like that for the past number of years, about four decades, and they feel marginalized.
Mm-hmm.
That the French system of assimilation makes them not to realize their full potentials as a person with an identity and a culture. So about 7 years ago, this thing has been boiling, and they are trying to see how to come out with separatist tendencies to separate from the majority French-speaking Cameroon in a state yet to be achieved called Ambazonia. If you go Google within international cycles, all these things, you will get what I'm talking about. This is a background.
Amazonia would be the English-speaking districts, right?
It is a country to be, which is fighting for the breakaway from the French speaking. So they will name it, they want to call it Ambazonia. That is.
So this is really a separatist movement from the get-go.
Yes, it's a separatist movement.
So did it start with a claim for greater democratic equality, or did they want separation right from the beginning?
It started with corporate demands by lawyers and teachers who wanted to make sure the English system of their education and the legal system is not swallowed by the English system is a common law system. Mm-hmm. It's not swallowed by the civil law system of the French-speaking part. Mm-hmm. So that is how it started. And gradually, it started gaining momentum, and it now degenerated into.
So over what period of time can you say it transitioned from being a demand for greater rights and recognition and to being a clear call for independence? How long has it taken for them to switch from the nature of their demands?
It is a very long story. It has been long, and it has been boiling slowly like a volcano. Mm-hmm. So that one is part of the politics and part of the history of the country. Mm-hmm. So it has been a long time. So it started boiling, as I said, gradually. Then it became very open, like an open wound.
Okay, now how did the country get started? How did it get set up the way it is now anyway? You say that both that was administered by the French and the English up until they decided to become an independent country. How did it get set up as a single unified country, and at what point? What was the process of independence?
Good. After the defeat of the Germans in the Second World War, Cameroon became vulnerable and open. And the French entered through the eastern part, that is called Cameroon Oriental. You know, Canada is a bilingual country like Cameroon, or we are also bilingual like Canada. And the UN system now handed these territories after the the defeat of the Germans, to the UN. The UN handed these territories, the French part, speaking French, the French-speaking part, to the French as a UN trust territory, and the English part to the British to help them, empower them, put them to maturity for them to accede to independence. So during this period of colonial, supervision under the UN, on the 1st of January, the French-speaking part 1st of January 1960, the French-speaking part obtained or attained independence as the Republic of Cameroon. Good. Now, by that time, part of the trusteeship, of territory of the English was being administered by the British from Nigeria. Nigeria was part of it. The giant country, Nigeria, which has about more than 200 million inhabitants. So there was a plebiscite which was
All right, wait a minute.
conducted.
Oh, you just told me something interesting. Nigeria has 400 million?
More than 200 million.
200
inhabitants.
million
Yes,
inhabitants.
inhabitants.
Oh boy.
Yes. Yes.
That's a surprise to me. Okay.
Yes.
How many in French Cameroon?
The whole of Cameroon, we are roughly about 30 million now. The whole of Cameroon.
30 million for the whole of Cameroon. Okay.
Yes. The English-speaking part is 20% of that population from official statistics. So we can be about 10 million. The two regions. So it's 20% of that population.
And you are yourself from the English-speaking?
The English, sure. I'm from the English-speaking part.
Okay.
Good.
And now does that mean that you yourself are an activist promoting independence, or are you trying to find some other route to solve the question?
No, I am not. I'm not an activist promoting independence. We are in a situation where we need to come together as Cameroonians and look at the various mechanisms on what we think will be best for us. So it is not the opinion of one person. It's not what you think is the right thing to do. It's not what you think you are covered by law. It's not what you think you have the strength to do. It should be a decision taken by the majority of the population. Good. So as an individual, I'm just trying to give the facts as they are and to present the situation as it is. And the decision, whether it is good, the actions that are being taken on the ground or not, we need a collective, we need as I say, the baobab tree. We have to sit under the baobab tree. In Africa, when there is a dispute or disagreement within a family, we go and hold a meeting, like your meeting, like the one we are holding. Yes, the country meeting.
Under the baobab tree.
Yes,
well, okay, so I'm sorry that this room doesn't have any baobabs, but it's a great idea. We'll try a baobab tree next time.
Exactly. We discuss under the baobab tree. We recognize, we express grudges, we look for a way forward, we come out with compromises, then we embrace ourselves.
It sounds like a perfectly wonderful solution to how to handle all kinds of conflicts. Bless you.
That is what I'm looking forward to.
All right. So
okay.
Now,
so going back, there was a plebiscite which was now organized through the UN, asking the English-speaking Cameroonians whether they would join Nigeria or join their brothers in East Cameroon, without giving them the third option of being an autonomous country. So the plebiscite was finally was on the 11th of February, before the Southern Cameroonians ascended and had autonomy on the 1st of October 1961. So they decided now for the two of these separate UN entities, the French-speaking part was already independent on the 1st of January, and the English-speaking, they decided now to come and join to form one Cameroon within a federal structure. So from that 1961 to around 1972, the country was managed in a federal system, where there was a federal government in Yaoundé, there was a government of Southern Cameroons in Boya, and there was a government of the eastern part of the country, based over in Yaoundé. In 1972, through some political maneuvers, those are the allegations, that there was a referendum, which was regularly done, and the form of the state was changed to a unitary state in 1972. Trying to dislocate the federal structure where the English-speaking, part of the country and the French-speaking expressed, developed, and enjoyed their way of doing things as in the past and as they knew in terms of their own culture, legal system, and upbringing. So from that 1972 to date, it has just been, very suspicious way of living between the majority French-speaking and the minority English-speaking Cameroonians.
Let me see if I'm following what you're driving at. I gather you're saying that at the beginning, it was a really true federal system with considerable autonomy for the two halves, two sides.
Yes.
But that from 72 onward, the French began to dominate in ways that violated the whole notion of federalism. Is that what I'm to infer from your statement? I think I've lost connection. Yoo-hoo. Uh-oh. Well, I don't know what to, oh, or maybe he'll come back in. Okay.
Yes, I'm sorry. The meeting was the connection.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so did you hear my question?
Not to the end. Not to the end.
I was inferring, and I want to check whether you were implying that from the beginning it was a really pretty good federal relationship, but from 72 onward, the French began to undo the equality or the independence nature of federalism and dominate too much. Is that what you're?
It was changed. The system was changed to a unitary state.
I see.
Good. And in 1984, the president passed an executive order changing the name of the country to the Republic of Cameroon, which was the country of the French-speaking part before the union, before the joining.
Okay.
Good.
So this was not a decision in which the English people concurred. They didn't weren't party to that idea, right?
It was done using constitutional mechanisms.
Okay.
Yes, but after time, they realized that they were not feeling as part and parcel of the unitary state. That the common law system, which was their own heritage from the British, and their educational system, which was also their own heritage, part of their heritage, what they had from the British, their way of living, their way of doing things, the principles of indirect rule, local governance, community development, the rule of law, the protection of the rights of the individual, principles of habeas corpus, and the presumption, the principle of the presumption of innocence. All those things which incarnate the day-to-day life and the protection of the rights of man, as we say, in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the ICC, the Covenant on, the 1996 Covenant of political,
you said
civil and political rights.
It was done constitutionally, but was it done over the objections of the English, or did they just not pay attention and let it happen? How did they get away with making
I am
such a change?
I am sure the attention which was supposed to much education, awareness, sensitization, and things like that, the ground was not well covered to make them understand that these were the consequences of what they had to go and say. But the argument was that the proponents, the argument was that the federal structure was very heavy and there was not much resources to run three governments. That is the federal government, the one of the French speaking, and the one of the English speaking. So they had to see how they could put it in a unitary form so that power could come from one center. So those were some of the arguments. And I was a small country with less resources.
Light. Can you turn that light back on? You're in the dark now.
Yes, lights have gone off.
Do you have any power over it?
Power problem, lights have gone off. I want to see how I could put on the genset.
Okay, well, all right, we'll go ahead with the light the best you can do. But
yes,
it's nice to be able to see your face.
Yes. Do you see my face?
A little bit, yeah. It's not as good as it was, but I can make it out.
We have lights out here now.
Oh yeah. So you have a power shortage there.
Yeah, we have power shortage here.
Well, how much of the I don't want to change the subject already, but when I called the other day, tried to phone you, I couldn't get through. And I wonder, are you having lack of facilities there now, and is it worse because of this conflict, or how come you're having blackouts? Of course, I have a blackout here too now and then, so it doesn't necessarily mean anything. But are there economic and functional problems caused by the conflict there? Your voice is gone now. I can't hear you. Can't hear you.
Hello.
Oh, there we go. All right. Now I can hear you. Okay.
Okay. There are many problems caused by the ongoing armed conflict, which to me, I reduce them to atrocities.
Oh.
Which are really, really, really serious
Oh.
in terms of the harm, pain, and suffering caused to the population, especially women and children, and the girl child in particular. Some of these issues are being addressed by the UN system, which has a sub-office here, humanitarian organizations, national, local, and international humanitarian organizations. But as you know, their resources are always very, very limited. And even when the resources are available, it needs political will to drive impactful and successful results on the ground. One of these the main things, and that is why you see the relevance of our organization, the Refugee Welfare Association, comes in, to see how some of these atrocities can be, can be reduced or the effects minimized. The first is gender-based violence. The high incidence of gender-based violence in the context of the ongoing conflict in the region is something which is very critical.
Okay, I mean, that's a big language. Gender-based violence can cover a whole lot of different things. What more particularly is going on there?
Good. The first thing is that the over 700,000 internally displaced persons within the region.
Internally displaced people?
Yes.
700,000?
Yes. You go online, all the records are there from OCHA, from UN, from UNICEF, from UNDP, all the statistics are there, all the findings, all everything. I'm not inventing figures. And many of the persons who are displaced, they live very precarious life. We're not talking of a country like Canada or a developed country. We're talking of a third world country where majority of the persons we are still in the bushes. We are still in the bushes, and we live very few towns exist in most of African countries. Most of the lives are in the people who live are in the rural areas. And if we talk about gender-based violence, we're talking about rape. We are talking about sexual violence. We are talking about incest. We are talking about forced marriages. We are talking about adoption and all the other forms that go into, as you said, into the category of what you call sexual and gender-based violence. And there is no pretense when you talk about sexual and gender-based violence. The victims, more than 90% of them are women, and they get child all over the world. Whether what is happening in Ukraine, in Gaza, all over where there are wars, the victims are always, most often than not, young girls who are raped, who are forced, who are tortured, and who are humiliated and made as if they are not human beings. And in the context of an ongoing conflict, It is what happens here, that almost every day you have cases of unwanted pregnancies that you see, young girls who are victims of rape. And within the context of our own organization, we have a whole team that receives these complaints and come out with mechanisms how to address them on a daily basis since the ongoing conflict started. Mm. And you should understand the multiplier effects are negative. They are not positive because it is not an investment. It is a destructive process that breaks down and runs down a community. It has, the trauma of rape, the long-lasting effects on survivors, depression, anxiety, traumatic stress disorder, social stigma. That is even the worst. The stigma, because apart of the harm, rape is also considered as a collective failure to hold down the main fabric of the community. It erodes trust and leads to the breakdown of social norms and values. It is very serious. It's one aspect of gender-based violence, which is rape. You have cases because if these things are not resolved using the available international law and mechanisms and the Geneva Convention, what they call the law of war or war laws, the rules, international humanitarian law, it is catastrophic. It is a very strong violation of human rights. All the actors are, they are perpetrators of this grave violation, which is perpetrated on these women and young girls. I don't need to go much into it. Another form of atrocity, which I said, is that of arbitrary arrest.
Of what?
Arbitrary arrest.
Arbitrary arrest, okay.
And detention. When there is a breakdown of law and order, it is the law of the jungle that reigns. And when there is a violation of human rights, systematically, this undermines the rule of law. And in the context of an ongoing conflict, it is a stronger person who dominates. And the vulnerable and the marginalized persons are the victims.
Tell me, when you're referring to, especially to gender violence, but also this arbitrary arrest, are these part of the conflict? In other words, is it, let's say, I don't want to attribute anything, but the French tending to rape English girls, or is it just anybody raping anybody from every group without regard to their linguistic category? How do these other conflicts about sexuality and arrest, how do they fit in? Are they aligned with the conflict over independence, or are these different kinds?
No, it has nothing to do with the independence. It has something to do with victims of the ongoing crisis. the ongoing armed conflict.
Go on.
So,
Wayne.
because there is now the issue of ransom, kidnapping by non-state armed groups.
Oh, yeah.
Who kidnap citizens and ask for much money. And within this context, since the normal services which are supposed to protect the citizens of the area, there's a breakdown of the system. So the law now is in the hands of this mob, these groups. That is how it goes.
Okay.
Because
so you just
the
have,
services,
because of the conflict, or on top of the conflict, you have the breakdown of order throughout the society. So you just have more criminal behavior in general. Is that it?
criminal behavior in general increased? No, not as such, but how to address deviant behavior. That is the issue. Because within the region, out of the 11 judicial divisions that we have, I bet you it's only 2 or 3 that are functioning.
Oh boy.
So if somebody's rights are being violated in those areas where the normal services of the forces of law and order, what you call the law enforcement officers, cannot be reached and are not accessible, you know, it is now being the services are non-existent. You cannot have access to justice. It automatically falls into the category of arbitrariness.
Well, you've given a very, very grim portrait of a situation that I think, holy smoke, what could possibly be done to put this, correct all of these things at once? Do you have a step-by-step notion of what priorities to use in solving this thing? If I have this idea, you're coming to Canada with the idea that maybe we have some good ideas. Well, I, for one, don't. I have very few suggestions or notions about if I had to solve this problem. I don't know how I would go about it. I can't think of what I'd do first. Do you have a game plan?
The game plan does not lie in the hands of humanitarian actors.
Well, where does it lie? I mean,
yes.
international law, my God, they can't even, I mean, we have international law, they'd have arrested Putin, and there's nothing going to be done in terms of international law.
Good. That is it. Those are slogans. International law without international law actors doesn't make sense. It ends on a sheet of paper.
Yeah.
So how does an armed conflict start? You never know. Or most of the time we say because there are things that you poke the other person, you threaten, prevention mechanisms have failed. So we're talking about an armed conflict which is ongoing. How do you stop it? That is the perfect solution. It is a political decision. So we as humanitarian actors, within the ambit of my exchange with you, we work with the principles of neutrality, non-interference, for just the purpose of the dignity of man. So going to how the problems have to be solved is a political decision has to be taken.
But political decisions are made with your enemies as well as your friends. You and I would have no trouble deciding who should do what. We'd agree right away about what's right and what's wrong. But obviously that we're not the people that you got to worry about. You got to take account in a political solution to some people that you don't necessarily like.
Yes, it is not a matter of whether it is right or wrong. It is a matter of whether what decisions are going to take are the correct decisions for the people who are the victims.
Okay,
and up to
so
that
where
moment,
do you go? How do you start solving that one?
how do we start solving this one? It is the talks under the baobab tree.
The
Famous
baobab
baobab tree.
tree. All right. Well, that's a
Good.
great idea. I don't know how
Yes.
far it'll go.
We abuse each other. We exchange bitter words. We express our grievances, our grudges. We recognize things which were done, like the Truth and Reconciliation Commission in South Africa under Mandela. Good. But that one has nothing to do, it's just my own opinion and way I to look at it. It has nothing to do with the humanitarian services that we are trying to, to offer through our organization, the Refugee Welfare Association, to build resilience, And
well, I'm impressed with your insight. Now, how in the heck are you going to get people to a baobab tree? And do you have a game plan? Do you know, are you setting up a system of consultations or Zoom calls, or what are you going to do to make it happen?
That is the starting point. We have already doing it. I'll count on Spencer, Meta Spencer, to help us raise an awareness on what is happening here. And we'll see that the problem is not a problem of resources, but of priorities. And that if we put it as a top priority and we push with some small resources, when people begin to know that it is a matter of the whole collective issue, and that the mindset of people change, and that the resilience of persons, that people become like human beings, and that they are treated humanely in the light of their rights like human beings, as enshrined in international conventions and national laws to which all of us, we subscribe to through the UN Charter. That will be a very good entry point. And thank you once again.
I like you so much. I think you're a very inspiring man. So here you are urging me to set up a I'm exaggerating, but sounds like you're saying, Anna Spencer, would you run a Truth and Reconciliation project for people in Cameroon? Well, I don't think I'm qualified. I have a Zoom conference call. I can make it available for you to use if you can find a person to be the host of a series of conversations among Cameroonians. It would be, we certainly have the facility to use our Zoom channel, and I'll be happy to have it used for that. I am not qualified to be the host. You are probably. So maybe if you want to set up a series of conversations on this show, anytime you can have access to it. Be glad to have you use it.
Yeah, yes. Yes, Spencer, to be honest to you, I am not inviting you to host a reconciliation conference for us, for Cameroonians. We as Cameroonians, we are going to
What a
sort.
relief that you're not asking me to
No,
do
no, no, no. We as Cameroonians, we are going to sort out our problems. But as they say, when there is a fire in the house, you have a fire outbreak, neighbors can come and help you to
Yeah.
put off the fire. So the fire does not spread very wide. So if you can give a helping hand through our programs, our activities on the ground,
Mhm.
through our organization, to build the resilience
Mhm.
of those who are the victims, that is that is our primary concern for now.
Uh, I have
Good.
no idea how to do anything for you, but I love the idea. And
Okay, thank you very much.
I would love to think that we can find something in which I could help. And the other thing, this is not what you're saying, but I think that when one group of people watches, let me back up. I used to be in something called the Helsinki Citizens Assembly, and at that
Yes,
point we had meetings among people who were a representative of, I think there were about four wars going on in the former Soviet countries. And
yes,
um, and what we do is we have a group meeting in which certain groups, about all representatives of all of those groups would come, and they take turns talking about their problem, their issue, their conflict. And the other three would have to wait and
yes,
listen until it was
yes,
their turn. But because these conflicts were so similar,
yes.
everybody learns something about their own conflict by watching the others discuss theirs. So,
Okay, okay.
you know, if you actually did have a conversation among Cameroonians and we made it available, of course, it'd have to be in English, and I don't know whether that's possible, but if it would need to be available to our audiences in various parts of the world who have similar uh, controversies or conflicts. And I think they learned, I remember cases in which they would each get some insight because their own dispute always had so many similarities to some of the other things. So they'd watch other people working through their problems and they'd learn something from it. I'd be glad to help share information or insight into your workings. If you now tell me, how do you plan to go about this? You're going to set up some sort of process where you invite people. Oh, I've lost you again. Come back here. Come back here. Anybody's watching this live, you're gonna get a surprise here. Dr. Itoye, I'm back. Oh, come on. Welcome back. Can't hear you.
Hello,
Hello. Can you hear me?
hello.
Hello. I hear you.
Yes, do you get me?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Can you get me? You hear me?
Uh-huh. Yes.
I'm
Okay.
sorry, the connectivity
I
problems.
know. I know. But but I have you back now, so that's what's counting. It's wonderful. You can finish. Now, where were we? Do you remember? I've lost track of what I'd asked you, but yes, I just want to know, you were planning a several sessions under your baobab tree. How are you going to do that? Tell me about it.
No, I am not planning any sessions under the baobab tree.
Well, I wish you would. Sounds like that's the most
I
promising
am,
approach. Why don't you? Sounds good
no,
to me.
I am, I am a, in this context, I am a humanitarian actor,
Uh,
and I am more concerned about building the resilience of the victim of the atrocities,
oh boy.
whose properties have been destroyed, whose families have been separated, who have been children who have been missing, the missing persons, children who cannot have protection because of their discriminations, resistant, young girls, sex for life, for living, victims of gender-based violence, and those are my worries. And these are the groups of vulnerable migrants, or these are groups of persons, the elderly, persons living with disability, widows, orphans, unaccompanied and separated children in their thousands and hundreds. These are the group of persons I'm doing advocacy on their behalf to see how we can attract attention from the world, from you, Spencer, from the world, to see how their conditions can be improved. Access to water, access to hygiene and sanitation, access to basic medical facilities, emergency food supplies, shelter, and you name the rest. Not convening under the baobab tree. That is for politicians to come to a final halt and a final decision-making process to resolve the crisis. I am here as a humanitarian actor to expose the atrocities, expose the challenges, expose the gaps, expose the breach of international law and international humanitarian law, bring to light violations and the abuses of human rights perpetrated on these victims, and see how we can attract support to assist other efforts by government, by other international development agencies, and the UN and other NGOs and civil society organizations in the region to build resilience for things to gradually come back to normal. That is why I am here. It's not about holding a series of talks under the baobab tree.
I would be more optimistic if you were talking about organizing talks, because I don't know how to raise your development, solve your development problems. Sounds like a lot of money would help, but I don't know. Maybe it wouldn't help, maybe at all. I don't know. And I don't have any money to give you.
Yes.
And I don't even have
Yes.
contact with anybody who is likely to give you money. I
Yes.
do these global town halls every month, and very often there are people from other countries, developing countries, Kenya or someplace, and I think they would like to believe that by appearing in a talk show or conversation with international audience, that everybody write them a check or something, and it just doesn't happen. Never happens.
Yes, Meta, Spencer. If we need to organize some other Zoom exchanges for me to highlight once more, to talk with some other persons and to pass across more information about addressing issues under the baobab. It's not excluded, but what I'm saying is that it is not within my mandate as a I'm not a politician. I am talking as a human rights activist, as a humanitarian actor.
You know, you're not a politician. You're something better than that. You're a very generous and kind and humane man. And somebody.
Thank you for the compliments.
Well, if somebody you've pointed out, I think the most, there's no easy answer to your problems, obviously. There's nobody in the world who can just solve your problems. But of all the approaches that may make some progress, a little bit of progress, probably the baobab tree is the best idea. Probably because it involves the people themselves who are in the conflict. Now, getting people together who hate each other and expecting them to talk to each other in a nice way is not an easy thing to do. I mean, I myself am not an easy person. If I'm having a conflict with somebody, I'm no nicer to them than anybody else would be. I'm not necessarily a sweet person, but so getting me together with my enemies isn't easy to. You probably wouldn't work, but if anything would work, that's the most promising thing to do. It doesn't have good probabilities, but sometimes if you get people together with a good-hearted mediator, sometimes they can hear each other. And sometimes that helps get closer. And sometimes we have a politician. Once in a while, there's a person with political savvy who can actually go and do some, or at least try. For example, during the conflict in Sri Lanka, which was about, it's similar to the separatist movement that you've described in Cameroon. Our friend Bob Ray went to Sri Lanka and tried to explain to him what a good federalist system would look like and how that might solve their problems. Well, it didn't really work, but he tried, and that was the best thing I think that could be done. Now he's the Canadian ambassador to the UN, and he talks about human rights issues at the United Nations all the time. So, it wasn't a very promising thing to do, but it was the best idea on offer. And I think your baobab tree is really probably has the best chance of anything I know of.
Well, I don't know. It's like giving us another option on what you think we could do to resolving the ongoing conflict permanently. We'll continue to see how we will use their good offices through Zoom exchange to see how we could gather other persons who are interested, especially other Cameroonians who do not have first-hand information, and other Cameroonian Canadians or Canadian Cameroonians out there for them to have first-hand information on what is happening on the ground and see what they can chip in terms of concrete ideas in finally resolving the conflict. That will be another form and a better form of the baobab, the famous baobab tree. So it'll be it'll be some work in progress, and we'll see how it goes ahead.
I wish I could think of a happy suggestion that would meet your requests. And I don't. I don't know
Yes.
any Canadian Cameroonians.
Okay.
I'm not sure I've ever met a Cameroonian before, to be honest.
Really? Really?
That's true. No, I do. I remember
Really?
being in Paris and meeting a French family who were moving to
Yes.
Cameroon. They were going to do some
Yes.
work or something in Cameroon, but they
Yes.
were French. I've never met a Cameroonian before. You're my
Yes.
number one in my list of Cameroonian friends.
So I'm very privileged to be number one Cameroonian that you know, and having the opportunity to express my opinions through Meta Spencer's Zoom exchange platform.
Now
Thanks
you
to
share
Sue.
this. You
Extend my
share
regards
this.
to Sue.
Yeah, listen, you share this with your other Cameroonian friends because you know people and I don't. And you can get them to watch this and get them to say, yeah, let's do a baobab tree. And maybe that would be helpful. And if I can help facilitate that, I don't think I can, but if I could, I'd be glad to try.
Yes, yes, yes. Yes, I take the heat. I take the heat. I take the heat.
Do you have a short? Somebody told me that there were food problems. Are you having any food shortage in Cameroon, or is it just political and violence?
Food shortage, not as such, but challenges of making it sustainable. Because we are the bread basket of the whole Central African region. That is the truth. You have neighboring Nigeria, Gabon, Equatorial Guinea, Chad, Central African Republic. All these countries depend on Cameroon for their main food supplies. That is the truth. That is what is happening. So, but the challenge with the crisis, the ongoing armed conflict, is to make sure there is security due to the damage of some farmlands. You know, communities don't have access again to their hitherto places where they used to plant and you know, crops, livestock, and things like that, development and things like that. So those are the challenges. The food, hunger, famine, no, not in Cameroon. That one I can assure you. It's just the challenges to keep it sustainable.
Has the government of Canada provided any kind of support or assistance? I think I read someplace about they're participating in some sort of mediation or a conflict resolution project. I don't I don't remember knowing.
It's not.
No.
Yeah, it's not yet official. It's not officialized. It's not official.
Okay. Well,
It has not been
just
made
tell me, is there
public
anything,
and official.
is there anything
So
I can do? We could ask our Canadian friends to suggest something to the government or to one of the development agencies within the government, the aid or humanitarian projects. I could maybe get people to conceivably intervene, and not more than a handful, but that's the most I could expect. And I don't see it as a very, very likely to have much result. Frankly, I
any
don't
positive step
in
in the
Ottawa, whatever.
right direction is welcome, can be welcome.
Well, it's, as
Yes,
I
yes.
say,
If anything
my
positive
friends
in the
and
right
I don't have
direction is
any
welcome.
clout in Ottawa. I'd like to think we did. Okay. Well, look, but come back to
Any
me
right
if you
step,
have an
any
idea.
positive step.
Pardon? I would say come back to me again if you can think of a way in which a conversation with your worst enemies would be something that could be created, and because I know people who would find it interesting to see how you interact and whether or not you can think of solutions together or resolve misunderstandings. That's the most we can hope for, I think.
Sure, Spencer.
Fine. Well, thank you. It's a privilege to get to know you. And I hope we continue to have some interaction and that I can be a little more useful than I've been so far. Okay.
It's also my pleasure and my hope that we continue the interaction and the exchanges when and if or when possible, when time allows, especially a very busy
Yes.
schedule. I don't know, are you going to do any editing or you publish blank?
Well, what I will do, of course, I have to edit this videotape because there's so many places where there are gaps and things that have to be taken out.
The
so
voice and things like that.
It won't be. I don't know what it'll look like when we're through, but yes, I have to do that. But I will print a brief a report about what we talked about in the upcoming issue of Peace Magazine, which I'm preparing now. In fact, tonight I'll be writing that.
Thank you very much.
And we'll get a little bit about this conversation into the January issue. Okay. So, well, thank you so much, and I wish you every.
Should I send you? Yeah, sorry. Can I send you a bio data? I send you a brief biography of myself. Do you need biography?
Please. All right. Very good.
Okay.
Please do. All right. Thank you so much. And I hope to be back in touch. And I wish you every success with the wonderful humanitarian work as well as your legal work. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you very much for your time, and for your support, Spencer. Thank you.
Very good. Bless you.